Yo, people, lateness is greatness. How are you doing this evening? Do you see what I'm saying? We come on with a light but night upload, all right? And we got Fuad in the building from StoppageTimeTV, 360TV as well. My guy, how are you doing today? We've got a big game to talk about.
All good, bro. Thanks for having me on, man.
Not a problem, bro. Do you know what I mean? It's been a long time overdue. Now, listen, we have to get through these games because there's a game previously with Brighton that we have to talk about as well. Chelsea managed to beat Burnley as well. A lot of people say it's only Burnley, but we have to pay them respect. We have to pay every team respect. Do you know what I mean? Anybody 100%. Can beat anybody in this league. So we have to get straight into that. But I want to start with Brighton because it was 1-0, but I saw the amount of chances that Brighton had was absurd. 16 shots on goal. Do you know what I mean? That's not what I think about when I think about a Jose Mourinho team. I usually think of a team that doesn't concede too many chances, a team that is solid defensively, that is, resilient. What happened in that game, man? Because obviously that helps with the build-up into the game for us.
Honestly, I just feel like anything that could go wrong kind of did go wrong in that game. From like beginning to end, I feel like the manager, the players, the lineup, the performance, I thought it all just was not up to par on the day. And I think it's kind of been the story of the last month or so, I would say, probably since the initial Liverpool, Leicester and Palace, since we dropped points then, we kind of lost our groove a little bit. And I just feel like this game against Brighton, I don't know what it was, but from minute one, we just did not seem up for it. Brighton, we made them look like Barcelona, for God's sake. I mean, this is a team that hadn't won at home, I think, since the restart, I think it was. I mean, they'd been struggling for goals all year, but then they somehow turn up and play pop ball around us. And as you said, like Jose Mourinho's teams are known for being kind of defensively sound. And I think one of the biggest differences between his previous size and this size is pure and simply the quality of players that he has. I think you look at the players in Spurs' defense, I'll touch on it on stoppage time, but a lot of these players are essentially players that were bought as backup. So when I look at Aurier, he was signed as a backup for Walker. When I look at Davis, signed as a backup for Rose. Dyer, signed as backup cover for Vertonghen and Alderweireld. Sanchez is maybe the only one you could say we outright bought, but Rodon even bought as a backup. So we've got a lot of these backup guys who over the years we've kind of asked to step up. And Jose, I just feel like what he demands will never, ever get out of this caliber of players, I feel like. And this second half of the season, I feel like, is just going to be a kind of a test of Jose to kind of see his experience and everything and see everything he can kind of pull out of his trick book to get this kind of defense up to scratch for the rest of the season, because we're in positions to kind of do things this season, I feel like, and we kind of had a good start. But that Brighton game, I just feel like kind of summed up our last month or so. Just a real kind of shit show, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, especially with Jose Mourinho as well, is that the team that you have, I'm looking at your lineup for the game against Brighton. Like you said, there's so many players that were backup and now they're asked to do a key role and be key men in this team. I'm looking at Sissoko and Davis playing the wing-back roles as well. You play like a 4-3-3, similar, mirroring the formation that we play. So we might even match each other up here. Gareth Bale obviously got a start, was dragged off. Bergwijn started up front. Without Harry Kane available, this is where my confidence going into this fixture comes from. I was saying this to expressions earlier. But this forward line without Son is very, very suspect and weak. We go even to the bench of Lamela, Lucas Moura. These are guys, Bergwijn and Bale as well. These are guys that are not consistent. They're not hitting, they're not exactly bringing goals and assists to get to the game as well. It's been very much Son and Kane. And obviously Kane is missing as your main creative outlet. So do you expect the team that you played against Brighton, same formation as well? Do you expect that going into the Chelsea game as well?
No, I hope not, because I feel like that was, as much as I can say, kind of the last two games against Brighton and Liverpool have kind of been the quality of the players have kind of let us down. I feel like Jose, in the way he set up and kind of against Liverpool, he played Doherty left back, threw Rodon in from the start. I thought that was a bit throwing him in at the deep end. I thought the shape kind of let the other teams kind of play at their best, essentially. I hope we don't. I definitely think for the next game, we must start Vinicius, especially considering Harry Kane. One of the biggest issues Tottenham have had over the years is when Harry Kane gets injured, who steps up? Jose really made a big point of that last year to kind of say, I need a striker, I need a striker, I need a striker. You got one. And in the last two games, we kind of haven't seen him at all, especially when Kane goes down. You've got to start him. You can't be waiting until halftime to say, I made a mistake and now I'm going to throw him in. Bergwijn is not a focal point. And I feel like with Chelsea, especially now, they're just starting to find their groove again. They're just starting to think, do you know what, we can maybe hit Spurs at the right time. And I feel like, in all honesty, I feel like this game is coming at the right time for Spurs. I feel like it's coming at it's a moment of Bale, I think, needs to stand up and be counted. Vinicius needs to take his chance. Bergwijn needs to take his chance. Dele Alli might be back involved in the mix. He needs to start taking his chances. So I feel like a good opportunity for a lot of these players who kind of, Aurier might be back in contention, even he said in today's presser, I think. So a lot of these players, I feel like this is the perfect game to kind of stamp and kind of make a claim again and actually look like a half decent team. But I hope the shape is completely different.
Yeah, you've got a lot of players that are out of form. You've been going through obviously some of their names there, players that are hit and miss that probably need to step up now for you guys to have a chance of being a threat. But I look at Harry Winks. He was on the bench against Brighton. He's a player that I would expect Jose Mourinho to play because with the way that we play as well, and Jose Mourinho always seems to focus on, you know, what the other team are doing as opposed to what he can do in terms of being a threat. Harry Winks is the type of player that I would expect to slot in alongside Hojbjerg, especially when you're missing some of your key, you know, you're missing Reguilon, which is a key player for you as well on that left-hand side. And the form that Hudson Odoi is in as well, I think Hojbjerg or Winks is going to be tasked with going out and defending that right-hand side. For Chelsea, when we played against Burnley, we were very much potent down the right-hand side. We were coming down the right flank, every single attack, whether it be Mason Mount, Callum Hudson Odoi. I would hope Reece James could possibly get a look in the future. I don't think he'll start in this game. But that right-hand side with the wing-back of Hudson Odoi, just getting acres of room. If you give him that kind of room as well, without Reguilon available, and say it's Davis, and Winks is not playing, and there's a lack of cover, it's going to be mad. It's going to be mad.
I've seen Davis cook too many times over the year. And what you just touched on there, I don't think Winks per se would probably be the more... I'd say this is the kind of game for Sissoko. Sissoko, for me, I feel like does that role. Yeah, I feel like Sissoko, when he doubles up with Hojbjerg, especially in these kind of the big games against City, against Chelsea previously, he's always looked good there. And whenever the fullbacks bomb on, I trust him a little bit more than Winks. I think Winks, as much as he's one of those, I feel like, again, is trying to stake his claim and prove his point to Mourinho that I deserve to be a part of this team, because he hasn't been as previous years. But I don't know if he'll kind of start this game, having not been in kind of many squad teams over the last couple of weeks. I think a big game like this, Jose probably wouldn't trust him.
But what confuses me so much, you touched on it earlier, Bergwijn up front, he's a winger and he's playing up front as this like vocal point, and you, like you said, Vinicius is on the bench. What is there any logic behind that? Because I really don't get that. Like you said, you signed a striker. I think when Vinicius had his debut, he got a few goals. I'm not sure exactly what game it was, but he definitely hit the mark and he was showing that he could at least be a deputy for Harry Kane. Harry Kane goes missing and you play a winger up front. I mean, that for me just makes absolutely no sense as well. Is there any logic? Can you think of any logic behind that?
I can't understand it, honestly. And the thing is, it's funny for me because when Bergwijn first came, I remember Jose didn't even rate him. It was almost like a club signing. So it's now that you're trusting him to actually replace Harry Kane as the focal point, absolutely baffled me. And even going into that game, when I saw the lineup, I saw Bale and I thought, he's got the number 9 shirt. Finally, an opportunity to play him through the middle, get some goals, get your confidence up. Even Son, he's deputized as the number 9 before. I thought he might go in that role. Bergwijn, for me, in that role, absolutely makes zero sense. He doesn't have the hold-up play. He doesn't have the link-up play. He doesn't have enough pace to get in behind. So, essentially, he's just a dummy up there. So, for me, a player like Vinicius, who, over the small games and sample size we've seen of him, he can actually score goals. He can actually link up well. So, I think when you've got that and you've been crying for that, and we've seen glimpses of that, can we please see a little bit more of that? Because even before Kane's injury, I've said, there should be certain games against the lesser side where we maybe stick Kane and Vinicius up top together. Ain't no harm in playing 2 up front. Like more and more teams nowadays are kind of flicking back to the 4-4-2. And I'm like, do you know what? I'd like to see us do that sometimes. But I don't know. I definitely think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, he should definitely get starting minutes and not from the bench, because Bergwijn for me is not an option at all.
Yeah. And it would make more sense if the likes of your wingers were on form. If Bergwijn was on form, if Lamela, Lucas, if any
no goals.
of these guys were on form, then you put Son up front, maybe Son up front, and then you go with the wingers, and you just go with a straight pacey attack. But when none of the wingers around Son are on form as well, it just it's not logical for me. It makes no sense. I can't quite understand it. I was speaking to Tottenham Tobes, if you've heard of him earlier in the day with Lee Gunner as well. He was saying that Mourinho's substitutions are backwards in terms of they're not being aggressive enough in terms of when you're a goal behind. Especially Liverpool, he mentioned as a standout. You're bringing on players like Winks. It doesn't make any sense. Why are you not bringing on more attacking substitutions? What's Jose Mourinho's in-game management like? Because he's lauded and applauded as this tactician, this man who's going to be able to string out anything out of a team. Now he's working with, let's be honest, some of these players really are not good enough. He's not being able to maybe bring the best out of them. What's his in-game management like been for you?
I think for Jose's in-game management, especially in regards to that Liverpool game, I think over the last couple games has been questionable. Like when you're a goal down and you're chasing a goal, you need to bring Vinicius on. You need to bring Bale on. Instead, you're giving me Lamela and Winks, who have arguably been two of the most unproductive players over the last year and a half, 2 years. So it just that in one in particular didn't make sense. Now, historically, I think Jose Mourinho, when we say he's a tactical genius, I always look at him, he's a tactical genius in the games where he is kind of the counter-attacking manager. He's playing against a team that is more dominant possession. I don't think his tactical master plans are ever to come out and dominate possession and create chances. I think those are the kind of games he's set up for. For me, that's where I have an issue with Jose sometimes. And as much as I love Jose, I feel like in the games where we should be more dominant, more attacking, his in-game management, I just feel like is a bit, let's get our goal, let's get our first 2 goals or whatever, and then it's like, let's sit back and relax. Whereas I was watching United yesterday against Southampton. They were 6-0 up and Ollie was on the sideline going, let's get more, let's get more. And it's kind of like, you want that a little bit. As a fan, I get it. And you want results at the end of the day. But at some point for me, he's got to kind of, once he gets his players in, I've always been saying the players are what's kind of keeping him from fully applying his tactics. I feel like Jose doesn't have tactics in the sense of tiki-taka style. His thing is more of a mindset. It's a team effort. It's a mentality thing. So if everybody isn't buying in, his tactics won't work. And I feel like if any Spurs players right now are kind of feeling in and out, whether it's Dyer or Aurier, any counter-attacking plan or whatever he wants to set up is going to fail. So if he hasn't got the players on the right side mentally, I feel like that's where his tactics can sometimes, you can be like, where is the plan B type of thing? And I get where Tobes is coming from. I know he's kind of a big critic of Jose and saying kind of tactically, I want to see more fluidity, but you know what you get with Jose. Jose is not that kind of manager. Jose is a results first kind of man. And I knew that coming in. That's why I haven't really been too much fussed on style of play and things like that. But tactically, I think in the big games, especially this year, you've got to give him credit. Like aside from Liverpool, who've dunked on us twice, we've pretty much got points off pretty much every top side, which historically under Pochettino wasn't the case. So he's doing something right in that regard. But for me, the issue is against the lesser sides, I would say, where he kind of struggles tactically.
Yeah, it was said so many times when I was speaking to Tobes, is that it's the teams that you're expected to dominate, you're expected to beat, you're expected to control those games and maybe even slap them by 2 or 3 goals. That's where you guys seem to struggle. And you seem to put the handbrake on and almost say, we're going to be defensive when we've gone a goal up, when really you should be going for the kill. You see what I'm saying? So it's a weird one with Jose because he's got you to a Carabao Cup final. You've got Man City in that competition, and it's an opportunity to win a trophy for the first time in a long time. At the same time, he's playing a very negative brand of football, which is not very pleasing on the eye. And most people will say, well, who cares? It's Tottenham. But also, when you've come from Pochettino, who used to play very good football and got you to a Champions League final and was clearly making some serious progress, it's very hard to switch to Jose Mourinho. It's literally polar opposites, isn't it?
The only thing I would say is if you remember the last sort of kind of year towards Pochettino, the football wasn't like that. The football wasn't anywhere near like that. It was pretty much exactly what we're seeing now. The players weren't buying in. The pressing wasn't there. The passing didn't have the zip. I don't know. The players just weren't fully buying in. I think maybe they were getting tired and repetitive of Poch's message, and it was kind of like just coming to its natural end. But I just feel like a lot of the times people look back at Poch's reign with like these rose-tinted glasses, and I'm like, towards the end, it was getting really, really bad. And even the style of play, people just couldn't fathom it. But for me, until you have the right players, and I look at that midfield, for example, like we're saying we want to be creative and go forward with it. You've got Hojbjerg, who's a defensive midfielder. Ndombele is arguably the only creative midfielder we have. Giovanni Lo Celso is pretty much a crock this season. Outside of that, it's Winks, Sissoko, Dele Alli, who we've barely seen. They're not naturally creative like that. And then even when you look up front, we're saying we want more kind of goals and things like this. Outside of Kane and Son, I don't know who else is providing goals in this team. So for me, that's an even bigger concern. Yeah, 100%. So when I look at Chelsea, I can think of maybe 4 or 5 options who can score for them. When I look at City, when I look at Liverpool, it's the same. For Spurs, it's like if Kane and Son ain't scoring, I've got to pray Ndombele maybe pops up with a bit of magic. He's only got 3 goals this year. So it kind of tells you everything at Spurs. It's like, for me, I think the squad is not up to standard, but I definitely think there's more that this squad can do as well.
And on top of that, as we've been saying all week really on this channel especially, is that Son and Kane, and everybody's been saying it all season, are exceeding their XG by a ridiculous amount, especially Son. Son has been so he's been so electric for you guys in terms of his efficiency has been ridiculous. I've been long saying that's a player on the level of a Bayern Munich for me. If he was to go into that team, they'd love him. Do you know what I mean? You play either wing, dual-footed, very, very efficient with his play, unselfish. So I think, you know, those two in particular, I worry about Tottenham, obviously from a neutral point of view, if I was being neutral. Chelsea, this is fantastic. But from a neutral point, if I was to take a neutral point of view, the way that Tottenham are set up with this squad, I'd be worried in the future if you don't have that injection of cash or have that really great scouting, because you look outside Kane and Son, like we said, and Ndombele as well. It's quite a flimsy team. There's not really any star quality.
I said it. There's 5 players. It's literally Kane, Son, Ndom, Reguilon, Hojbjerg. Outside of that 5, you'll struggle to find one player who a top team would sign to start in their team. Genuinely, like you're looking at mid-table, below caliber type of players. And if Spurs want to be genuine title contenders, as they say, silverware winning, and this is why you kind of brought Jose in, you've got to spend. And I feel like that's what kind of, when Levy brought Jose in, I can't imagine he was dumb enough to think that he wasn't going to have to spend. I understood he brought 7 players in or whatever in the summer, but if you look at it, some people say, oh, he was back, the players got it. But it was 2 loan signings, a freebie, 2 15 million signings, and a 27 million. It's not exactly the Jose style of backing, if that makes sense. And especially for the caliber of players that Jose wants. I think what I'm personally, as a Spurs fan, hoping is this year is kind of like the final nail in the coffin for a lot of these players who I feel like have been at the club for 4 or 5 years, the Ben Davises, the Sissokos. And it's finally made clear that when Jose comes in, a manager of an elite caliber says, these players aren't up to the standards, we do a clear out this summer. Similar to like what Arsenal have done in January, where they've gotten rid of Ozil, Mustafi. We should be doing that this summer. We shouldn't be trying to make a profit on some of these players. Just let go, cut our ties. And then it's kind of how do you reinvest that and kind of move forward. But for me, this summer, I'm praying is kind of a rehaul, regardless of what the situation is, if we win silverware or not.
Yeah, you do need a clear out. And when you've got a manager like Jose Mourinho, you need to take advantage of any pull power that he's got left as well, because you know you could have an effect where, similar to Everton, where Carlo Ancelotti came in, they brought in some players that maybe would not have given them the look in if without Carlo Ancelotti, the likes of James Rodriguez. In fact, I know he definitely would not have gone to Everton. Do you know what I mean? But with Carlo Ancelotti, that pull power is there. But with this team, I do worry for you that if you don't win something, and that's why I think that Carabao Cup is so vital, then the likes of Kane and Son, it could go the other way. If you don't clear these guys out and replace the peripherals of the squad, even Danny Rose is still there. Do you know what I mean? Then potentially Harry Kane and Son will leave. How old is Kane? 27, is he? Son, 27, I think, as well. Yeah.
Both
they need
26 turns 27, 100%. They're right now in the prime and peak of their careers for me. I feel like that. I've always said this season and the next season, I feel like is the key for me. I know they're both in kind of talks to kind of extend their contracts, but I think a lot of that will kind of dictate where this club finishes over the next year or two. And couldn't agree more with that comment, to be honest.
Someone just said here as well. Carl Walker-Peters.
Oh my God!
Leaps and bounds ahead of Doherty. I call it Doc now from EastEnders, bro.
What Doherty? I don't know what the hell has happened, because when he came in, I initially thought, you know what? He's a 15 million signing, low risk, consistent couple years at Wolves, and he's constantly made the step up from League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League. He's taken to it like a duck to water. I thought he'd come to Spurs, the natural next step. And honestly, he's looked like a fish out of water. I don't know what is wrong with him. For me, he's definitely not a right back. He's a right wing back at best. But even now, he's so short of confidence. Honestly, it's just I don't even know what to do with him at this point. I'd let him go if I could, but I'm not sure how appealing he is at the minute.
Yeah, because Kyle Walker-Peters is having a good season as well.
Wicked.
It's double.
I love to see that.
And how much did you guys get rid of him for? Did you at least even make
12 million?
Okay,
it was 12 million. But the only thing I'll say with the Kyle Walker-Peters deals, it did allow us to get Hojbjerg for essentially 3 million. So that's why I agreed with that comment in regards to the Giroud signing. I feel like financially, Hojbjerg for me has been the signing of the season. When you look at the impact he's made and kind of what Spurs needed and what he's kind of brought, I feel like he's almost a prototype for the modern day defensive midfielder. So for 3 million, for me, signing of the season.
100%. I have to agree. I've said it as well. He's definitely the signing of the season for me as well. He's been so consistent, and he's been, if anything, he's done two-man's job at time in that midfield as well. Very similar to how I would say Kante did it back in his prime. A man that's doing two jobs for the price of one. So I have to give massive credit to him as well, because I personally didn't see this level of player at Southampton. I knew he looked like a good player, but did I think he was going to come and change the world in your midfield? Absolutely not. And like you said, for me, you're just one creative midfielder away now from having a really good midfield, a solid midfield. Very similar to Leicester, where they have Ndidi, they have Telemans, and they have Maddison. They've got a very complete midfield. You know, definitely then depth needs to come. But right now, we're just talking starting 11-wise. You do need that creator. Because as we've said before, Kane is being used as this De Bruyne plus a striker this season. He's been creating all your opportunities, and then he's been either creating them for Son or scoring them himself as well. And that's, again, another player that's doing two jobs in one. And
that's where I was saying earlier, where some of the players need to step up. Like with now, Giovanni Lo Celso will come back off injury in the second half of the season. He now, I feel like, has been here 18 months and kind of needs to stake his claim in the team. Similar to like Ndombele did. I feel like he needs to put down a good 10-game stretch. And if not, in that time, I want to see Dele Alli actually stake his claim and say, this is why I'm...
Do you think Dele Alli can even do that, though? Because I've spoken about Dele so much this week, but he's a guy that's just gone missing. He's gone off the face of the earth. Bro,
I said for the past 18 months, I've been looking for Dele Alli because I was one of the biggest, like, oh no, we might have the next Frank Lampard proponents. But boy, over the last 18 months, whether it's injuries, I've seen kind of loss of form, loss of interest, it seems. And I'm just like, I don't know whether it's kind of the superstardom has got to him, or I don't know whether his head's not in it at the moment. I know he's gone through some personal things with robberies and things like that. So I don't know whether that's playing on his mind. But I've said, if Dele Alli can concentrate and get his head down and actually get back to the player he used to be, because back in the day, I don't know, the Spurs press, I feel like, used to start a lot with him and Son, and then followed by Kane. And I always felt like if one of them doesn't do it, the other two don't follow. And I felt like he was almost the first one to get into that superstar mode of start strolling around the pitch. And I was like, I remember when he first came, he used to clock the most amount of mileage on the pitch every week. And where has that gone? And I feel like he's lost that hunger and bite a little bit. If Jose can, I don't know. I know Jose's a master of provocation. This is the only thing I know about my manager. If he can somehow provoke something out of Dele Alli this second half of the season, it's only credit to him, because we've seen Ndombele in this situation last year in a way worse, because he was a record signing. And if we've seen that recoveries can be made, he should take that as an example.
Yeah. And also with Dele as well is that he's not the creative 10 that maybe we're talking about in terms of your team lacks. But if a Harry Kane is going to drop deep and be that creative 10, at least Dele Alli was always that guy that run beyond and get the goals and help out the workload that we're talking about that your players don't seem to add on to. You know, we're talking about Bergwijn, we're talking about Lucas, we're talking about Lamela. They don't bring goals into this team to take the workload off of Son and Kane. And at least Dele Alli, when he was playing well, was running in behind. I remember at Stamford Bridge, I was saying it earlier to expression, 2 headers at Stamford Bridge, running behind.
I remember.
This guy, I was scared shitless of him, bro. He was moving different. People were comparing him to Thomas Muller. He was going to be this completely different type of player that English football's not seen before. And it's all gone. Do you know what I mean? And I think potentially maybe an attitude situation. I know Tobes don't like me saying that, but from what I saw from the documentary, I can only really go off that. He doesn't train very hard. And if there's one thing I know Jose Mourinho has, is standards in training and his application and the willingness to succeed. And you need to bring it out of yourself as much as he wants to bring it out of you as well. And it worked 100%. Very much when Frank Lampard was Dele's age as well, Dele Alli's age, very near to that. And when Lampard was obviously coming up through the Chelsea team and was trying to stake his claim under Jose Mourinho in those early years, we bought a shit ton of midfielders. Frank Lampard could have easily had an attitude situation, or not have the application, or not have the work rate off the ball, not bring enough to the game, not work on your craft.
But that's what got him.
Exactly. That's what got him to the pinnacle, is the work rate and the hard graft. And I didn't see that from Ali in the small snippets that I saw in the documentary, in terms of when he speaks, the way that he carries himself, the way that he acts in training as well. And then on top of that, when I see him on the pitch, this guy's saying he doesn't offer much more than goals. And I think you can work on your passing if you're Dele Alli. You can work on your creativity, but you have to have the willingness to do so. I mean, personally, I don't think there's too much way back for him at Tottenham. I think he needs a new lease of life in a different country. That link with PSG,
I agree,
would have been the saviour.
I agree. I don't know why we kind of dilly-dallied over that. I kind of wanted him to go out and then to try and bring someone in. I feel like he needs the game time. He needs a fresh start. I've said for 18 months I've been looking for Dele Alli. I don't know where he's been. I genuinely don't think he'll ever get back to those levels as well. And in particular, one other thing as well I'd like to add on to what you said is positionally as well. I think everybody's saying he's a goal scorer and he's got limited ability. I agree with that 100%. And one thing Poch did, and realized that very early on, was he told him, you almost played a shadow striker role. You're not actually, you're a number 10, but you're almost like a decoy 10. You're almost like a second striker. Yeah. And I feel like as Poch moved away from that towards the end of his era, Jose has no interest in giving Ali a specialized role as if he's this kind of generational talent. No, you're not. So it's a case of, can you now adapt to a normal system? Can you now adapt to become a normal 8? Can you adapt to become a normal 10? And this is where I feel like I've had my frustrations with, is that lack of evolution from Dele. And it's the same thing I've even complained about this season with Gareth Bale, where if you're not going to be that explosive winger who is going to be the guy of yesteryear, give me something a little techie. Become a little number 10 who maybe strings a pass or two here. But it's that lack of evolution where you're just kind of like, all right, I see you're not trying and you're just kind of willy-nilly walking around this place. Cool, you can move on then. I kind of have no interest.
Credit. Yeah, this is why I give Poch so much credit, because I feel like he gave Dele Alli that lease of life that we talk about, where he turned him into a shadow striker. And Dele Alli's game was always about off-the-ball movement. If he made the right runs, into the right areas, Son and Kane would find him, especially Kane. Kane has always had fantastic passing range and ability to pick out a man. Eriksen as well, playing in that right-hand side, playing as like this fake winger, but would tuck in and become this 10. Ali would make those runs, and Eriksen would take up that Kevin De Bruyne-esque right channel slot, cross it, and pick him out. Yeah. And Ali worked on his finishing, worked on his off-the-ball movement, and he did fantastic. But that was all because of Poch and the way Poch made that team play. Lee Gunner coming in here, big up my guy in the chat. You know what I mean? I spoke to you earlier on the London Clubs Carnage show with Tobes. He says, can't lie, Lingard.
2 goals. Hey, and if you saw the goals, good goals as well, man. Good goals as well. Listen, I'm happy for Lingard. I can't get ahead of myself. I can't. I think that's too far, definitely.
Too far. You've got to be taking the mick a little bit. Do you know what I mean? He said Mason Mount have to watch himself in the team as well. The reason why I say this is not because of what Lingard did tonight. It's the competition. It's Maddison. It's Foden. It's Mason Grealish. Mount. It's
Grealish is out wide.
So many, even Smith Rowe, Saka. Do you know what I mean? Sancho. There's so many players in that attacking midfield area. It's nuts. Grealish. We haven't even. You know what I mean? He is unbelievable this season and last season. So. Yeah, man, Lingard keep doing his thing. It's good to see him back. Do you know what I mean? Because he's had a tough time, but obviously he's gone tonight and done the business. He's similar situation like Ali though, where he's kind of been at a club stuck, not being played, low on confidence. But what did he do? He said, you know what? Let me go out, get minutes, and look at him getting 2 goals. Ali needs that. Yeah, Ali needs that. He needs a fresh team. I would even say go abroad to get yourself out of the limelight of the Premier League, but at least take a loan move. You need to get yourself out of Tottenham, because he's not even on the bench for Brighton. In the Brighton game, he wasn't on the bench. So we're talking about him coming into this game. He ain't coming into this game. Let's be real. If he gets onto the bench, he'll be lucky.
He'll be grateful. Yeah. I think Jose said this week he's just planning on incorporating him back into the team. It's just more wishful thinking for me, I think. But I just feel like our midfield needs something, especially with GLC being out for the next month or so. I'll take anybody at this point.
Yeah. You guys were linked with Eriksen as that creative outlet, but it didn't come to fruition. I don't know if you would have taken him back, because the way that he left was kind of like, I'm done here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was, but I think it's also important to remember what he did. I think during 95% of that time, I feel like arguably one of the classiest players in Spurs' history. Like, people talk about Modric and Gascoigne and all this, but Eriksen needs to be held in that regard in Spurs' history, because I feel like what he brought and the fact that he was so versatile, both feet, set pieces, he had it all for an attacking midfielder. And I understand kind of how he went out was kind of a bit backdoorish, but
yeah,
I mean, I don't blame him. He kind of had ambitions of winning things. I mean, that's what we're kind of looking at Kane and Son at the minute and saying, do you guys have that ambition? He actually said, you know what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And fair play to him as well. He got a massive payday. So listen, It might not have gone well for him, but then as soon as he got started getting linked back to us, midweek Milan derby, he goes and slaps a free kick in, saves his Inter career. I think the very next game he scored another free kick. So it seems like at the minute he's back in the fold off the back of kind of the last couple of games. But we'll see. I hope he kind of turns it around at Inter. He's still only 28, I think, turning 20. Or he is 29, actually, yeah. So he's still got a couple of years left in him. But I would have taken him back with open arms, put it that way.
Yeah. I think, you know, I mean, we joke about all these loan deals and, you know, Odegaard going to Arsenal, no buyback and whatnot. Are you just helping other man progress? But you know what? In this freak situation of a season, especially with the climate as well, the financial climate, any player that can come in and make a difference. Because, like I said, Dele Alli's just not getting a look in at all. I want to look at Chelsea. I want to definitely look at that Burnley game. I want to get your thoughts on Thomas Tuchel, because he's come in. First 2 games, 4 points, played very well against Wolves, just couldn't quite break them down in terms of a low block. But he only really had 24 hours, barely unpacked the toothbrush and toothpaste. You know what I mean? He barely had the time to work with the team. He only had 1 training session, so I can't really judge him off that. Burnley, I know it's only Burnley, but we've seen Burnley, beat other teams. You know, I think they took points off Liverpool. So, you know, it's not an easy game to go into. They are very defensive as well. You got to break that down. We played, in my opinion, very well. But what's your take being on Tuchel, the way that he started Chelsea in general in this last couple of games with the back three and everything so fresh?
I like what he's done kind of the first 2 games, to be honest. I think the system change, I think the reintroduction of some of the players where he's kind of given them a clean slate, and even like the use of Cho, I think it was kind of almost left fielded. Nobody kind of expected him, to introduce him and start him straight away like that, but then also put him in this kind of right wing back role, and then to kind of see him prosper like that as well, especially considering kind of Reece James has started the season so well. But overall, as a manager, Tuchel's one I'm a bit iffy on, to be honest, because I look at his time at Dortmund and I think his job was to kind of come in there and overtake Bayern, if you like. And I never felt like in any of kind of the league campaigns he ever really put up a good enough race. Yeah, he won the German Cup, but I always felt like he kind of underachieved a little bit there. And maybe it might be because of the Klopp set the standard so high over there as to kind of what to do. But then when he went PSG, I always felt like it was, you know, bread and butter. Anybody can win Liga. But then in the Champions League last year, he kind of got the 1-leg knockout. It kind of made it easier for them to get to the final. But then in the final, the performance from what I saw, I wasn't that impressed. And I felt like when it comes to that crunch time, elite time, when you need the elite managers to make those differences, he doesn't quite do it. And that's where I worry for Chelsea, because I felt like they took a gamble in hiring Lampard after the Sarri experiment went wrong. And I feel like this is almost like another gamble. And I'm like, I know Chelsea are used to chopping and changing and sacking, and usually it works. But I worry that this might be the first time that the fruits don't come as quick, especially considering you've also got a young squad and brought in a lot of players that still need to kind of mesh in and gel. It'll be kind of interesting to see how he does over the next 18 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, reportedly Chelsea's first choice was Pochettino. Obviously, they moved way too late in getting rid of Lampard to go for Poch. And then it was Nagelsmann, who was never going to move mid-season from Leipzig as well and come into a very sticky situation at Chelsea mid-season. He was always going to move in the summer, if move at all, because he's probably wanted by every club in Europe at this point that are looking at managers. So then it was up to Tuchel or Allegri. And I think the one thing I'll say of Chelsea is they've definitely made the right decision in terms of Tuchel or Allegri, because we've been chopping and changing. But I like the fact that in the last 3 managers, they've tried to play progressive attacking football at least and promote youth more and more, which Tuchel will do.
That's the only place where I differ, you see, because I kind of wish they went for Allegri, because I feel like Allegri is almost Chelsea heritage, shall we say.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Italian coach, plays kind of results-based football, a winning coach, and I just felt like he ticked all the boxes of the Roman Abramovich kind of checklist. And then when you guys went for Tuchel, I was like, they're still going for this kind of brand football philosophy thing. And I just feel like the brand philosophy football thing only works when you have the creme de la creme players. When you're at the Barcelonas or Real Madrid and you've got the players who can do that. Chelsea now have quality players, and I think they can do it. I don't know whether Tuchel is going to be the man to deliver that final product. I think Allegri probably wouldn't be suited to this squad. I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely not. That's my one thing there.
I think, in that aspect, I can kind of hear it where Tuchel's more fitted to the squad. But I think the profile of the club and Allegri would have been kind of a match made in heaven. But then I guess if he did come in, you'd kind of have to do a rehaul to kind of get his guys in again. So maybe Tuchel is the right decision.
Yeah, I know Sarri's time looked like it was a failure. But to be honest, I have to say, the more I look back on that time, the better I look at it, because he took a Conte team that was playing very negative football, very low block, very sufferable, as he was always saying, we must be prepared to suffer. And he took that team and a couple signings, but he managed to, obviously Jorginho was instrumental in that cover, but he managed to change that team and turn it into a team that played attacking football. And at least, well, as the season went on, we saw more of his ideas coming to the fore and made it easier for Frank Lampard. And now you see Sarri's time and you look back at it and you think, well, at least we finished third in the league. We won the Europa League as well. We won a trophy. We got to the Carabao Cup final and we was penalties away from winning that. So that could have been 2 trophies. And I know they're minor competitions, but again, you know, a competition is a competition. You're in them to win them. And he changed the way that Chelsea approached the game. And like you said, the time and the period of Chelsea that you're referring to is very much, you know, the old way of Allegri and getting results. And doesn't matter what type of football you play, just win the game. And if you have to do shithousery Chelsea, do shithousery Chelsea. Win the game by the odd goal, the prime Mourinho times as well. And Chelsea are, since they've won that Champions League, it feels like they're trying to change. They're trying to bring in young players. They're trying to build that academy into the team as well, which started with, I know people won't give Sarri credit for it, but he did give Hudson Odoi his debut. He did give Loftus-Cheek more chances as the season progressed. So he did start a little bit of the progression. Obviously, Lampard has taken it up to a whole new level with the bridge from Cobham, but with Sarri, the pressure that he's under, and now I think we can see it a bit more and appreciate it more as a fan base, the pressure that Sarri is under, the politics that takes, you know, people talk about politics under Lampard. Think about the politics that was going on under Sarri, a foreign manager. No club history, no allegiance really to this team in terms of legendary status, no real big you know, managerial CV to lean back on, only really Napoli. We talk about politics with Lampard. Now we need to start maybe giving Sarri his fair dues of the politics that he must have been dealing with back then as well. And I just appreciate what he's done, to be honest, because he made it easier for Lampard to play attacking football. And I think Lampard's made it easier for Tuchel with the squad that he and the board have put together, whether it be Lampard signing or the club signing, the pull power, the phone calls, whatever you want to call it. The squad that Tuchel has is 10 times better than the squad that we had last year. So I'm very much appreciative for that as well.
Agreed.
We spoke about Sissoko moving central, and the reason why as well is that we're going to mirror you in formation if you play the 3 at the back, which you played against Brighton with the 4 in midfield. We've been playing with 2 fake 10s in terms of it's been Mount, it's been Pulisic or Ziyech or Kai or anyone, or Werner even at times. How critical do you think it is for Sissoko and Hojbjerg as your ball wingers, if they play, or winks? They've really surely got to control the 2 10s for Chelsea, because let's be real, we're going to have the majority of the possession, isn't it? You guys
100%, yeah. I think that'll be kind of what our defensive shape has been built on. I mean, you look at last year, I think we only kept 3 or 4 clean sheets, and I mean this year I think we've got the 3rd best defensive record, and that's with all those awful players I was mentioning earlier. And I feel like one of the biggest factor has been the fact that this season Jose kind of hasn't gone with the dream 3 that every Spurs fans want, which is Hojbjerg, Lo Celso and Ndombele. Instead, he's gone for this kind of solid foundation of Sissoko and Hojbjerg as these destroyers in front of the back 4 to just break everything up. And I feel like that's kind of giving this almost protection for this weakened defense. And maybe it's negated us kind of going forward, but it's definitely helped us give us like a solid foundation defensively to build on. And it will definitely be arguably the most key part of our team come this Thursday.
Ken Berry with a super chat here says, I think because of Frank bringing in the youth and attracting the big names, Tuchel will be successful, one of the best for developing youth with tactics. I agree. And Tuchel, I get why you're up in the air, because he's only been given an 18-month contract as well. So that screams out short-termism. That screams out risk. And I've heard that in reports that if he doesn't get top 4, he won't get a contract. If he gets top 4, he'll get the contract extension. If he doesn't, then he'll have 1 year left, and then he's got to do big things in the second season. So that's going to be interesting. And obviously there is a history of him butting heads with the board at his previous clubs as well. We already know Chelsea's the wrong board to be trying to butt heads with as well. Another thing.
Just to go back to quickly, go back to the tactics. I was thinking, you were saying how after Chelsea they tried to move away after the 2012, and the one thing I noticed that is it's usually after the big clubs receive success, they usually want to move away from their style. So whether it be Chelsea, whether it be United, they always want to and I get it, it's after that. And that's where I feel like personally my issue has come with over the last couple of weeks with Spurs fans. It's almost like this lack of patience with Jose to not understand that the poor standard of players that we have, and to understand that he's only been here a year. This thing isn't going to turn around overnight type of thing. And I feel like we haven't even had the success yet to be throwing our toys out the pram and calling Jose out mid-season for a manager of that quality. Like, his record at least deserves the respect to be given at least till the end of the season, see if he can actually get some cups. So for me, that's where over the last week, I think a lot of Spurs fans have I feel like they've been throwing their toys out the pram and saying Jose out, because the football's not been as great. But for me, it's like, we're not Chelsea, we're not United. They're a different kettle of fish. They kind of can throw their toys out the pram because they've got toys. We ain't even got toys. We're just laying in a crib crying at the minute. So let's wait for that.
That's one of the funniest things I've heard. That line there. We ain't got toys. I'm keeping that. We ain't got toys. That might be a bio thing, We ain't got toys. You know what I'm saying?
We ain't got toys, bro.
It's true though, because your chairman don't splash the cash like that. Do you know what I mean? So you have to be a little bit more calm and collective with the way that you approach the situation.
I feel like Spurs fans, I'm more on the players, but I feel like a lot of Spurs fans should be more on the board. And I feel like this board, more pressure needs to be applied to them more than ever. Steve Hitch is the head of recruitment. He's openly come out in last year's documentary. I don't know if you recall. He was like, I hate the January window. And I'm just like,
I heard that. I heard that. And then this January window, nothing gets done.
Nothing gets done. So I'm like, so Liverpool, who spanked us, are short on defenders, but they've gone and signed 2 centre-backs. Meanwhile, we've been slapped for the last couple of weeks and done nothing. So I hope over the next few months, rather than people turning on Jose, people turn on the board and actually question them to back a manager for once. Because they didn't back, I don't feel like they backed Jose the Jose way, and I don't feel like they backed Poch at all, and then sold him short to kind of get Jose in. So for me, it's a case of put pressure on this board if you actually want to see change at this club. Because if the manager gets changed, believe me, we'll be facing the same problems of a poor squad and a poor board advising this club. So
100%. Lee, like I said, I'll text you after and I'll make you a mod for the next one, because obviously this one, I don't know how to make mods midstream as well, but we'll get it done for the next one. If people try not to block too much of the spamming, like I said, because we're trying to get the people into the chat here. But yeah, I think another tactically, I think going into the game, I'm looking at the way Alonso will be making those dark night runs, do you know what I mean, in behind. Because Alonso is not a player that I want to go through in a build-up sense. I don't want him to get too much of the ball in general play. His first touch sometimes, or just the way that he navigates the ball can be very suspect. He's very one-footed. He can be a bit sluggish, things like that. However, if we build up down the right like we did against Burnley, and we channel all of our efforts and our attack down the right, and we get those balls into the box, and if say Dot from EastEnders, Dorothy's he's sleeping.
Bro.
Alonso will come in behind. You know what I mean? I don't really rate Alonso, bro, but he scored quite a few goals against Tottenham. Do you know what I mean?
This is what I was going to come to. There's 2 players in your team, who I feel like the minute they see Tottenham on the fixture list, they just circle that. That's Marcus Alonso and Mason Mount. For some reason, when this fixture turns up, they seem to put in a 10 out of 10 performance every time. So as soon as you mentioned Alonso there, I was like, yep. He's one of the threats this game, because I'm telling you now, if one of the weaknesses we have is our right side, whether that be Bergwijn right wing and then Aurier or Doherty, as you said. But Alonso, I've always said, the minute you don't have to tell him to defend, you're going to love watching Alonso. What a player. Technically, what that man can do with his left foot, amazing. But the minute you ask him to defend is when you start looking at him a bit like, And if you're a Chelsea fan, even worse because he's costing you goals and things like that.
100%.
But going forward, I think, as you said, if you guys focus your attacks down our right side, that's probably where our kind of weakest area would be. And that was kind of where you guys should exploit, in my opinion. But yeah, Alonso, big problem. Yeah,
we played the same formation that we could probably play tomorrow night. We played it last season. We went to your ground. I remember it was Willian and Mason Mount in the 10s. And Willian got a couple goals. Mason Mount had a great game, as you said. And it'll be interesting to see if we do play that formation, which I am expecting, if Jorginho and Kova get the nod, because I think Kante's on his way back. I think, there's a case to be made for Mason Mount maybe dropping deeper. There's so many things that the fan base are talking about. But Jorginho and Kova are very good against Burnley. And again, Tottenham are probably going to play that low block and try and hit us on the counter. They're probably going to go with pace up top. So again, as long as we protect that pivot and surround it with pace, and that's why for me Mason Mount has to start. That's why Kai Havertz is a doubt, Zoom is a doubt. So I would probably go Pulisic behind in the fake 10s with Mason Mount as well. Two very good players who can carry the ball, get in those half spaces and turn and distribute the ball quickly. And then I'd probably go with probably just Rudiger, Azpilicueta and Silva at the back and try and cover for the pivot. I am hoping as time goes on that Reece James gets into this team as well. I think Reece James has got a lot to offer this team at right side of centre back. Very physical player. I think we saw that very much so in the game against Leeds earlier on in the season when he was dealing with Bamford on a minute to minute basis. He was bodying him, and I think there's a long way to go for him in terms of that. Very comfortable stepping into midfield, and we've seen, what with Azpilicueta, he scored the goal against Burnley, and this is where I think it's going to be an interesting midfield battle against Tottenham. You've got those four, the two fake 10s, and then the pivot, and that's going to be the zones that Ndombele, potentially Sissoko, Hojbjerg, they all operate there. And you could be outnumbered. You could be outnumbered 3-4. It could be a 3-4.
Honestly, I think over the last two games, especially in Brighton and Liverpool, I feel like that's one of the issues. I feel like tactically, especially, we got wrong. We went with the 5-2-3 almost. And I felt like as much as we said Hojbjerg can do two-man's job in that midfield and Ndombele as well, they both played well in both games as well, ironically, but they're just so outnumbered that they're just getting popped around and teams are just charging through. So for me, definitely it's somewhere to explode. But for me, one thing I wanted to ask you, Chelsea's front line, like what's the situation there? Like, what do you think the best options are? Because it seems like when Lampard was in charge, week by week, he didn't know whether it was Ziyech, Pulisic, Tammy, Giroud, Werner, Havertz. Going into this game, what would be the front line you'd want to see?
Yeah, I mean, the front three, I'd have definitely Mount and Pulisic as the 10s. I think Pulisic was good when he came on against Burnley as well. Up front, bro, it is any man's guess because Timo Werner is shot for confidence. I mean, this guy can't buy a goal at the moment. He is shot for confidence. He looks every time he misses an opportunity, we're almost like, come on, Timo. And to be fair to him, he has the right mentality. This is where I'll never make the comparisons with Alvaro Morata because he has the right mentality to keep going, to keep working for the team, to keep doing things outside, getting the goal scoring opportunities, to keep making the runs, to keep getting in the right spaces. However, his finishing and his first touch, those are the two glaring areas where he needs to improve big time. And thank God the size 2 the footballs have come out in training. I've seen the small footballs from Tuchel. Do you know what I mean? Because maybe that's needed to improve his touch. Then you've got Giroud. Giroud is more stationary, and to be honest, Giroud kind of suits this team because you've got your runners in Mount and Pulisic, you've got your wing backs in Hudson Odoi and Alonso, who are gonna Alonso's gonna get into the box. Hopefully, I'm not trying to see Alonso cross too much, but if he can get into the box and be that extra guy who can get on the end of crosses with his head or his feet at the back post to help Giroud, and then again creating that overload. Hudson Odoi is a very, very strong crosser. Get those balls into the air to Giroud. That could be a very good route. And Tammy Abraham's kind of a mix between the two. He's got the mobility. And, he's got the stature, but he doesn't have the whereabouts to actually get on the end of these crosses with his head.
To use it properly,
Yeah, 6'4" frame, but his heading ability is non-existent, bro. You know what I mean? It's not there. It's simply not there. And
as you said,
not there either.
Yeah, I think Giroud is literally, I've always thought that when he plays in that team, I find it's the most fluid because everybody just kind of feeds off him and pings off him. The one thing, I think Pulisic this season, though, hasn't been anywhere near his kind of levels that he set last year, in my opinion. And an option I was thinking, would it not make more sense with you saying that you wanted Reece James in the team to maybe put him at right back or right wing back and then maybe to put Cho up where Pulisic is?
No,
maybe show that opportunity up top.
The reason why I would still keep Hudson Odoi at right wing back is because what I've noticed so far with this system, the wing backs always get that space. When you create an overload on one side and say you keep the ball and then you switch to play quickly, there seems to always be acres of space. And I do want Hudson Odoi to be very much isolated on that right wing, 1v1 versus Davis, and to pin him on that touchline and beat him time and time again. Because like I said, Reguilon's not available. If Reguilon was available, potentially. Because he's not, and Hudson Odoi's got more of an engine. You know, for me, he's got more of an engine than Reece. He's a little bit more dynamic. 1v1, he can do the dribbling thing, and he can really get up there. And it's not even a wing back. It turns into a right winger situation. Both of the wing backs just push up into right wingers, and Jorginho and Kovac will just sit, and it becomes a very narrow 5-man defense with the pivot just ahead of the back three. So Reece James, for me, in a wing back role, I haven't been as impressed at Chelsea as when he's a right back. As a wing back, you've got to do everything going forward and everything going back. Yeah. And for me, he doesn't have the electric speed to do it. And he could potentially burn out a bit faster. And also, he doesn't have the dribbling as well to go 1v1. And he might be more prone to pass back if he can't get the crossing. Crossing-wise, he's fine. But to beat a man, he doesn't have the same run with 1v1 than Odoi does. I think Pulisic will get better. He's been poor this season, though. I agree.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Pulisic hasn't been great this season, but I think he will improve. Yeah, I believe in his ability. It's always been injuries with him, and now he just needs to get that confidence. But even if he doesn't play, you've got a player like Hakim Ziyech who could play as well, potentially. So it's really up to the manager which one he'll go with in terms of Hakim Ziyech or Pulisic. I think he'll start Mason Mount to give that energy to Jorginho and Kovac off the ball and make sure that we're solid defensively as well, because we haven't conceded a shot on target since he's come in against Wolves and Burnley. Yeah. So you might have got it up to do. You know what I mean? The thing is, this is my thing.
Have you still got that record of where you haven't beaten a team above 13?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's still there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. There's still hope then. There's still hope.
Yeah, but you know what? Records are there to be broken, innit? And that's my thing. This is why I'm coming into this game must-win mentality, because we need to break that record. It's a dirty record to have. I think 2 points this season against top 8 teams or top 6 teams plus Leicester. Shocking record. That can't run anymore. So that has to change. A lot of the chat are saying Giroud. I agree. I personally would start Giroud. And what you talked about with fluidity, a lot of the fan base for Chelsea seem to disagree in the fact that when Giroud plays, they feel like we lack mobility and we become a crossing team. But for me, that was all instruction. If you look at the way Giroud plays, it's not just cross the ball into him. Look at the way that France use him. They funnel the ball into his feet, and then the wingers play off of him and they start, running in behind, making off the ball runs. Giroud is one of the best players in the world for taking the ball under pressure, holding it up and giving it.
Watch Mbappe at the 2018 World Cup. Yeah. Anything magical you saw him do was usually Giroud related. And I know everybody was ripping Giroud for saying he scored no goals. But if you saw what he did for that team, honestly, I couldn't agree more there with what you said. It's instructionally. I feel like Giroud almost, he's a perfect target man. He's strong in the air. He can hold the ball up on the chest. He can trap the ball at the feet. He's got a great first touch. And one of the things I love the most about him that is so underrated as well is the amount of one-touch finishes he does. Yeah, he's not a guy who also needs many touches. He'll get that, pop it off, and then just dart into the box and wait for that opportunity. I love Giroud, man, personally. He's always played for rival London teams, but he's always a player who I've had big respect for.
Yeah, and the thing is with Giroud is that I just trust him to be the most clinical striker. And none of them are clinical, quite clearly. Giroud's never hit 25, 30 goals in a Premier League season. Yeah. Werner is evidently not clinical this season. And Abraham just, I think, is our top scorer. But at the same time, it depends on the situation. Because when the ball's in the air, it's not happening. And left foot is probably not happening. But I look at Giroud and I just think to myself, if I'm relying on someone in a big game, because this is Tammy's problem. Tammy doesn't seem to produce in the bigger games. If it was against the lower league and the mid-table teams, Tammy, I think, is a very good striker to go with. But he's still in his development. And in the big games, and we talk about that top 8, that top 6 record, he hasn't scored against the top teams in this league. I think the only goal he's got is against Arsenal last season away from home in the Emirates. I don't remember him. I don't remember him scoring against Tottenham. He definitely didn't score against Tottenham because it was Giroud and Alonso at Stamford Bridge, and then obviously Willian at the White Hart Lane. I know he didn't score. I think he got a tap in at Anfield, but that was all Pulisic's work. You know what I mean? That's why it's important to watch the goal, because people will say he scored against Liverpool. Yo, watch that goal back. It was all Pulisic weaving through man. Gomez was on the floor. Everybody was up in lyricals and waxing lyricals about Pulisic. Then he just lays it on a plate and Tammy taps it in. So for me, against the big teams, Tammy doesn't quite do enough for me at this current moment. I want to get into finally our combined 11. And obviously, it's been a great discussion in terms of tactics on football. So, people, big up yourselves in the chat as well for joining us. It's a late one. Do you know what I mean? It's a late kickoff. It had to be done. Real. Liverpool were in the way. Do you know what I mean? I said to myself, I don't know if I can compete with Liverpool. Do you know what I mean?
It's worth waiting for now. We've seen the help.
We're going to go through in a combined 11, but we're going to make it interesting because we're going to go with, first of all, players that are available. And then obviously go by form. And I think that's good because you're ahead of us in the table on goal difference, I believe. But obviously you've got a game in hand. So we're having very similar seasons if you look at it overall, points-wise as well. And then on top of that, we'll get a good gauge of who are the best players to step onto this pitch for tomorrow night as well with the combined 11. So we'll start with goalkeeper. I mean, to be honest, you can make a very strong case for Reece. I think your defense has been better than ours this season. Let me just see.
I think if you're talking conceded and kind of clean sheets, we have been. I think goalkeeper, I would go for Reece. I think Reece, up until maybe the last 2 or 3 games, I felt like he'd kind of almost turned it round since recovering from injury. I think post-lockdown. I felt like he was kind of on the way down last season and kind of declining after the World Cup. But I really feel like this season, I don't know whether Jose's got some extra focus on him or something, but he really seemed to kind of turn the corner. Mendy, I thought, started bright, but then kind of the lapses of concentration came, a few errors came, and he hasn't looked as assured for me since then, as confident almost. And I feel like the defense in front of him is actually quite solid and does him quite a big favor. But whereas Reece possibly doesn't have that same luxury, I would say.
Yeah, no, I have to give it to Reece as well. I think Mendy, if Mendy had carried on the form that he'd started with, I think it would have been a better debate. But because he's very new to the Premier League as well, he has had a few moments in our rough patch of form, as has everyone. But Reece just beats him on experience, pedigree, probably on form as well, for being honest. The last 2 games, obviously, clean sheets. However, no shots on target. So, you know what I mean? If there's no shots to save, then you're probably not going to concede. Do you know what I mean? Reece is going to be better in form, and also the fact that pedigree-wise, France and everything, he's been here a long time, so you have to pay homage to that. So Reece in goal. I think we have to go with a back 3 because that's what we're both been playing.
That's true.
In recent games. So we'll start with the right side of centre back. I'm gonna put in. Oh, it's tough, because I've got Zuma in there potentially, but he's not available, so I can't even use him. And Reece James, I would love to throw Reece James in as right sided centre back. However, he hasn't been playing in the last couple of games, and I've not seen him in that position. So, as much as I think his potential is very high in that position, you have to play him first. So I'm going to put Aspie in there because Aspie's he hasn't been brilliant this season, but in the last couple of games he's stepped up. And we know right-sided centre-back, under Conte especially. I
was just about to say, all you got to say is right centre-back to Aspie, and I know what Aspie I'm getting. Minimum 8 out of 10, not even 7.
100%.
Just to add on that, I'll be honest with you, all 3 centre-back slots, I would say, go to Chelsea players. I'm to even put a Spurs centre-back in there, honestly. Rodon, Sanchez, Dyer, Tanganga, not a single one of them for me I deserve to be in a mixed 11 or represent.
None of them.
For me, I would go Thiago Silva in the middle of that 3, possibly. I think what he's come in to get him on a free, the way he's kind of got the best out of Zuma, he's brought some experience, some leadership, and that's something I think that's not very big in the Chelsea dressing room at the minute, experience, leadership, and he's brought that. So credit to him, definitely. And all right, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, especially over the last couple of games. Eric Dyer maybe could slot in that left centre back role. On form, that's what I'm saying. If we're talking on form, let's go Rudiger. Let's go Rudiger.
I got to give it to Rudiger. If it's between them two, Eric Dyer didn't even play last game. Do you know what I mean?
Because and that's the thing with Alderweireld. Alderweireld hasn't even been in the side for the last couple of weeks, so he's not even worth considering.
Yeah, with Rudiger, I'm not Rudiger's biggest fan. Everybody on this channel will know that. However, in the small cameos that he made under Lampard when he was making those appearances in the weaker games, he was solid. And then obviously Tuchel's taken him straight under. And we'll put politics aside and I'll say, listen, no personal beef for this one. And I'll just leave it at, Rudiger should probably play. Last 2 games, 2 clean sheets. He's played solid. Yeah. So I'll give him his fair dues there. But like I said, the personal beef will continue at the end of the season when the transfer window opens. Do you know what I'm saying? Right wing back. Hudson Odoi, I have to, because I'm not taking Dorothy, I'm not taking Dot from EastEnders, and I don't even rate Serge Aurier that highly either. I think Serge Aurier is very prone to mistakes, very clumsy. He's got a penalty in him.
I'll be honest with you, since the first Liverpool game when our form initially started sliding, I feel like it's almost coincided with his form sliding. And as much as him and Dyer, I would say maybe the first quarter of the season, you can say, they showed massive improvements and a bit of a purple patch. They always say form is temporary, class is permanent. And I'm sorry, right now, Aurier's form is stinking. Doherty doesn't even know if he's a footballer at the minute. So, Cho, Reece James, take your pick.
Reece,
this looks like a Chelsea 11 at the minute.
Yo, no, you know what? I know the way he's shaping up, but I know where I'm going to lose my battle. I know where Tottenham players are going to get.
I have a feeling
I'm just taking my picks right now before it gets real dirty. Hudson Odoi right wing back, 100%. We go to left wing back, and I must say, if Reguilon was fit, this wouldn't even be a discussion. It's not. It's, honest to God, it's not a debate.
That's the only thing I'm upset about. That you said the fitness.
When you said the fitness, the reason why I said the fitness is because I was like, we have to tailor it to this game, and it's a preview for this game. And obviously they're not available. And that goes for Kai Havertz, and then it goes for Zuma as well. If Reguilon was fit, finish the whole thing, lock it off. I'm not entertaining it. I wanted him at Chelsea, if I'm being real, but that's in the past.
I feel like at the minute, the form he's on as well, just before his injury, I felt like Robertson had just started to fade out a little bit, and he was actually, form-wise, I felt like the best Premier League left-back at the minute.
Yeah, and Reguilon is better than Alonso. We're not even, but we're doing players that are fully fit and available for this match preview. And I can't lie, this is another guy I don't rate, but I have to put him on the table because at left wing back, under Conte, and now I don't know where it is with this Juju.
Left wing back. Yeah, then there's no discussion who it is.
I have to do it. I don't want to do it. It can't be Chilwell. Let's be real. It cannot be Chilwell. On form, it can't be Chilwell. The last month he's been stinking out of place. And then when it comes to left wing back, I'm sorry, but the Juju does not disappear when it comes to Marcos Alonso. He just continues to keep coming up with these clutch goals, these contributions, this badge kissing stuff. I can't lie.
Facts.
Again, I've got personal beef. I've got doors to knock on in the summer window. I've got things to settle, 100%. But if we're doing it on a meritocracy basis and a basis of what can the player do in that position, unfortunately, and I say this with my heart, I have to put him in the team.
You got it. No choice.
Now, let's get into the midfield because this is where it's Tottenham time. I can't lie to you. I'm already ready. Yeah, I'm not debating it. We're going to talk about the 2 players. I rate them both highly. Ndombele and Hojbjerg. They go into the double pivot. Not a discussion. It's not a discussion. I would say, especially form-wise, for me, Hojbjerg has just been getting... I've been almost waiting for his good form to drop off, and I'm just like, oh no, I think this is just his actual level now, I'm realizing. And with Ndombele, it's just... I've run out of adjectives to use to describe this guy. Like he's my favorite footballer to watch at the minute. Honestly, he's just a joy. Signing of the summer for me. The price that you got him at, like you said earlier, the little dealings with Southampton, not bad.
The only one contending, the only one contending, I would say, is Ruben Diaz. I feel like has been a star signing. True. But if we're taking kind of the business side into account as well,
exactly.
I mean that is top tier. And I'll be honest with you, the one thing I love about Ndombele, why I want to put him in as well, is I feel like he's almost been a new signing this year. Like last year, he had injury issues, he had the managerial issues, fitness issues, settling issues, whatever it was. And this year, I just feel like we've almost signed another world-class midfielder in there. So it's just amazing. No,
Jose Mourinho passed him as fit. I'm pretty sure when he spoke to the media. So I'm gonna go. He may, anything can happen. But I'm going to pass him as fit.
He's adapted to that Jose mindset. You got to play through the pain now, baby.
Yeah,
Ain't no more of that.
In this type of game, I expect him to play. People are making shouts for Kante. No, Kante for me this last month has not been, before the injury, he was not looking good. Turnovers in the midfield against Man City and Arsenal, and he's not on form. And again, like I said, we have to be fair. These two midfielders, Ndombele and Hojbjerg, have been on form, and for me in that pivot as a partnership is stronger than anything Kante is coming in and bringing into that partnership. Like, if Kante was playing at his peak powers, then it's 100%. I think he gets in some way because he's one of the world's best. Yeah. However, on form, people, we have to be on form. He's not getting into this midfield on form. He's just not. And also, his fitness is up for question as well. So, like you said here, look, ain't fit enough to start the derby. Someone just said YB1. So, like I said, if we're talking about on form, you have to put those two in. You're not missing anything. Yeah.
That last comment was cheeky.
Which comment was it?
Ndombele purple patch player.
No. He's a quality player. He's a quality player. I can't take it. I have to rate him. He's a quality player. At Lyon, he was quality. I know he took his time under Mourinho. It took a whole year really for him to get his shit together. But when he got his shit together, he's serious. You know what I mean? He's a serious player.
Ndombele, though, is he also, when he joined Lyon, he was only there for like 2 years. Before that, he was playing second division French football. So for him, the jumps he's been making them very quickly. So I knew when he came to Spurs, there was going to be that natural kind of stagnation, his progression a little bit. But I'm just happy we're getting the player we got now. But
these brothers that come from the second, I don't know what it is about the second division in France, but these brothers.
Who is it? Mahrez,
Kante.
Even Pogba, let's be real, he come from Havre. Yeah, they forget that. People who try to give him the United youth product. He ain't a United youth product. Le Havre produced him. Second division French.
These brothers just be coming out of nowhere. It's incredible. Yeah, don't worry. The pronunciation of names on this channel will never be correct. And just remember that. Don't ever expect it to be correct because it won't be. We have to get into the front three now. For me, we saw someone earlier. They said Reece James over Hudson Odoi right wing back. Like we said, on form. Reece James on form last couple months. Well, not last couple months. Since the Arsenal game has tailed off. Since he came back from injury and he was rushed back from injury. Hudson Odoi on form is a different level of player. And even personally, from a wing back, I'm looking for the dynamism. I'm looking for an attacking wing back, right? And more of a winger, if anything. And he's going to be, like we spoke about earlier, Hudson Odoi is going to be the more attacking player out of those two. So I think Reece James sets you up more for. You're looking at a 5 at the back. You know what I mean? I'm progressive. I'm thinking forward right now. Yeah. So that's why Hudson Odoi goes in there, and he's been brilliant. The 2 games he's played, one of them I think man of the match. I don't know if it was both of them. Definitely one of them. So you have to give your one. Yeah, I say both of them. Do you know what I mean? I say I'll give it to him for both of them. It's not even a bias thing. Then behind the forward, I'm gonna go Mason Mount and Son. Would you agree with that?
I would 100%. I was just curious to see which Chelsea player you'd name because I think Mason Mount, I don't know what it is. He seems to get a lot of kind of discredit, but I feel like he's one of those players that Mr. Consistent almost. Like he just gives you a 7 out of 10. Maybe stylistically people don't like him. Maybe because, I don't know, Lampard kind of took him under his wing or whatever. But I just feel like he gets a rough ride a lot of the times. And whenever I've seen him against us anyway, he's always put up a performance, which has made me personally respect him. But I always think he's from set pieces, right foot, left foot, he's versatile. He's always willing to offer something. And he's one of those players that doesn't hide. Even when things are going south, he's always offering an option for the ball. Those are my favorite players. When things are going south, when things are going bad, how's your mindset? And he's one of those players I always see persevering, pushing through. So I respect mentality monsters like that. So yeah, Mount and Son all day.
100%. Mason Mount against Fulham didn't go missing. He was the one to get the winning goal, kept going. Leicester, only player that didn't go missing, only player that didn't hide, continue to persevere to try and get the team back on side to get the result. And again, these 2 games came off the bench for Tuchel in the first game. Put in the hard yards, showed the difference that he can make when he came on, made the impact even for 8 minutes, and then got the start and was, again, very good at the weekend. So for me, I think he's the 4th player to get 50 chances plus created in the Premier League behind the likes of De Bruyne. He has been excelling this season. Yeah,
I was going to say that. And that like when you take that into account, everybody talks about KDB, Grealish and Bruno as if they're like the holy trinity of creators in the Premier League. And Mason Mount is steadily just trucking along behind that. It's just Mason Mount is Milner. I think that's a bit harsh. I think
it's a bit harsh. I was trying to compliment him, but it's
no, but the thing is, Milner gets a little bit underrated as well because he came out as a tricky winger, a little free kick taker. He had tech when he was at Newcastle and Villa. He'd only become this workhorse as he kind of progressed to the bigger sides. But Mason Mount, listen, credit to him, man. I think this season his performances have gone on the radar. Good player.
Yeah. 100%. And like I said, thank God there's no Chelsea shouts for the Ziyechs and the Pulisics. I thought I was going to have a beef thing in the comments, but they understand it's on form. It's on form. And on form, there is no debate because the other guys, as fancy as they are, new, fresh toys like we speak about, transfer window, doesn't matter. They're not on form. It doesn't. And Son, I cannot speak highly enough of Son. One of my favorite players. I like these type of players, man, that are dual-footed. They're so rare. Dual-footed, works hard, team player, efficient, exceeding his XG to a ridiculous level. Again, this is I said this before. I say this again. This is the type of player that at Bayern Munich they take a player like this, and like I said, I can't speak highly enough of him. I think he's your top two players. Him and Kane. I think he's unbelievable. I really do.
Just a quick one on Son as well. It's kind of a discussion I'm sure you've seen all over the time. Like the world class debate. Do you think he's a world class player or not?
100%,
because
100%.
Now I'm of that mindset because similar to exactly what you just said there is I feel like if Son leaves Tottenham today and moves to Bayern tomorrow, all of a sudden everybody in their minds just ticks, yep, he's a world-class player now all of a sudden. Because we see Gnabry pull off a few performances in the Champions League and everybody's willing to throw him in a world-class bracket like it's nothing. But Son's been putting up consistent performances week in, week out in the Premier League. And you can say he's streaky and he might have like 5 game run, 6 games run where he doesn't score, but he's a winger. He's not a striker. That's not like primary job shouldn't be to score goals. I know nowadays that's how wingers are, but I feel like what he brings to Spurs is so much more than goals. And I honestly, what I've said, him and Kane for me are already like arguably Spurs' greatest players for me of all time. I feel like by the time they leave, they will be Spurs' greatest players of all time.
Really?
They're nowhere near done, I don't think.
Above Gareth Bale when he was in his prime as well.
100%. I think I already rate them both above Gareth Bale already.
Really? Yeah. Gareth Bale in his prime?
Gareth Bale in his prime. Listen, that was what, a season and a half of some of the most amazing stuff.
From the moment when he ran in Milan and tore up that right back to
I think with Bale as well, it's the story that went along with it. The fact that he was the left back, the fact that he was this unlucky guy when he first come, and then he developed into this kind of monstrous winger, shredded, almost like Ronaldo 2.0. We saw the evolution of an actual player. But if we're talking like Kane and Son, come on, what they've done over the past 4 or 5 years, I have never seen a Spurs player do that in my life. Like, especially
Son in that Liverpool team. Oh,
for me, especially for like an extended period of time like that, for 4 or 5 years, we haven't seen Modric do that. We haven't even seen Ledley King do that, for God's sake. And he's one of our greatest players of all time. So it's like, for me, Kane and Son, when they leave Spurs, I think they will leave as arguably the 2 greatest players of all time at the club.
Yeah, and I think, Son, put him in that Liverpool team, put him in that Bayern Munich team. I think his versatility to go false 9, to go left wing, right wing, he can go right wing, dual-footed. He can curl them in with his left foot, no problem. So, again, I just think he's a top player, and I can't speak of him highly enough. The way that he carries himself, ultimate professional. He's really everything that you look for in a footballer, to be honest, if I'm being completely real with it.
Thanks to someone said that in the comment, and that's very true. His dad is militant.
Smash the likes, people. Let's see if we can get that up to 200 before we wrap up soon. And then the final position, which, let's be real, if Harry Kane was fit, this wouldn't be even a discussion. I wouldn't allow it to become a discussion. It would be a disrespect to the channel. However, he's not available. And when he's not available, and we've spoken about it before, your man, your striker ain't even getting any game time, then I guess it has to be a Chelsea one. And that is so forced because it didn't have to be a Chelsea one. It really didn't. We don't have strikers
by default. By default, almost.
By default. We don't have strikers that are on form. It didn't have to be us, but we have to take it. And really, I want to see what the chat thinks, because I've said it all along. I think all 3 of our strikers have things that hamper them. I think they're all inconsistent in a way, and I think they're all going to be in rotation until they either step up or we sign an elite world-class centre forward, unless Werner turns into one, but I have my doubts sometimes as well.
For me, with Werner, I think Werner's better off trying to become almost like the winger. And I feel like the one thing he should focus on adding to his game, I feel like, is assists this season, especially. I feel like if the goals are drying up, try and contribute in some other way. I feel like with his pace, especially, I think he can be a lethal weapon and beat defenders with ease. But the problem is I don't think he has. I don't know whether he's not unlocked the skill trait yet on FIFA as they do sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just feel like he doesn't have enough moves in his locker yet. But I think if he gets a couple more assists in his game, he could go a long way. I think people are writing him off too soon, too quick. And when things are going bad, it's easy to write a player off. But I think Werner, his time will come. I don't think he's a Morata. I don't think he's a Shevchenko Morata type. I think if there is going to be one of the two Germans that's a bigger bust, I worry that it might be Kai Havertz more than Werner, in all honesty.
Do you know what? Yeah.
The options for the striker option, I'd go Giroud personally.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's very 50-50. I can see a lot of shouts for Tammy, a lot of shouts for Giroud. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave a slash between both their names, because that's no one's really giving Werner too many shouts, unless it's sarcastically. I'm not going to lie. But Giroud and Tammy seem to be getting a lot of shouts. So what I'm going to say, if there's some mods, or if there's guys in the comments, in the chat, after this stream's over, go into the comments and just write Tammy or write Giroud, and let's see which gets more likes, and then we'll know which one really is the guy. Obviously, give it a little bit of a description, combined 11, Tammy or Giroud, and give that 2 comments, and then we'll see which one gets more likes after the stream. So put that in the comment section, and I'll be down there as well conversing with you if you have any more questions and stuff you want to debate. Of course. So get down there in the comments after the stream's over. So we're gonna do Tammy / Giroud, and then we'll see what the people decide in the comments. Man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Great stream. We've gone through everything. Do you know what I mean? If people needed a Tottenham Chelsea proper, like if they needed a tactical build-up, they just got it. Do you know what I mean? We've gone through everything. The wing backs, the centre backs that you don't really rate very highly. If we go through the combined 11 again, we've got Reece, we've got Rudiger, we've got Silva, we've got Azpilicueta, we've got Hudson Odoi, Marcus Alonso, Hojbjerg, Ndombele, we've got Mason Mount, Son, and then we've got Giroud or Tammy, depending on the comments. Let them know where to find you, bro, and all the content that you got coming up.
At Fuad Kadani on Instagram and Twitter. Keep your eyes peeled over the next couple of weeks. I'll probably start my own YouTube channel as well.
Right.
Probably under the same name. Yeah.
So fans are rising. There's only expressions. And I said to myself, there's not many Tottenham fans, And then now Toby's popping up.
Yeah. We needed some more representation out there. I was like, you know what? We need to get out there. So yeah, I'm planning on starting that over the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
And then Stoppage Time, of course, every week kind of drops every Monday on 360 TV YouTube. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
I cannot big up Stoppage Time enough. And I must say, I've only been following the last few months. I've only just found them. However, I've gone back to the backlog, and I always appreciate a YouTube channel with a serious backlog. Like, you can see the grind to get up there. Do you know what I mean? It didn't just happen. You just seriously grinded. And I love the studio, the set. I don't know what, obviously don't give the location away for the people, but I love the set. You got culture cams in one seat, and then you guys got this like little office type vibe. Kind of judging, you know what I mean? It's like, your opinions.
Little boy in the corner.
No, but I love it, man. The graft is real. I can see the evolution, the artwork that's gone in as well, the intro, and everything. And yeah, like I said, man, you had Troops on a couple of weeks ago, and I love it when you can take a big personality and just bring them into a convo, and it's just calm, it's normal. Do you know what I mean? It's not a madness. So I have to respect it. And like I said, guys, the links are in the description. Go and follow Fuad as well. Follow Stoppage Time, the show, and obviously just 360 TV in general. Do you know what I mean? Big on Instagram. Fantastic that you're pushing people's content on there, and obviously the channel as well. So the links are in the description. And people, it's been a busy damn day. Do you know what I mean? 3 uploads. We don't do it often, but I hope you guys have enjoyed. I really do. I tried to really build up this Tottenham game on another level. Like I said, I'm hyped. And Ahmed, no matter how much you spam Werner, I'm sorry, it's not going to count as more than 1 comment, my bro. Do you know what I mean? I can see. You know what I mean? It wasn't close though. Werner didn't get the look in. Like I said, people, if you need content, if you're going to sleep late at night and you need, content is on this channel backlog. This stream, We got expressions from earlier on, and then we had the London Clubs Carnage with Lee Gunner and Tottenham Tobes, or Tapping Tobes as he's now called, on there as well. And then tomorrow, all you can eat Chelsea 11 a.m. Do not miss it. I know you guys love this show. Miz and Eunice will be back, and we'll be talking about Tottenham and some more stuff as well. So be ready for that in the morning. And like I said, people, I will see you in a bit. You know the review's coming tomorrow night, and hopefully it's after a win. Because if it's not, blood clot, I'm screwed on these socials. In a bit, people. Peace.
Take care. Perfect.